Welcome to Around the Track, the most exciting 15 minutes in wealth management by Dynasty Financial Partners and hosted by CEO Shirl Penney.
Welcome to another edition of Around the Track, the most exciting 15 minutes in wealth management. I'm thrilled this week to be joined by a good friend and another St. Petersburg resident, Sébastien Bourdais, who is a four-time IndyCar champion. Sébastien, thanks so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
I just want to say quickly, our whole community is really excited about the sponsorship and partnership with you and the number 14 car this year. It's been really fun to see all the excitement around our community, watching your races every weekend. So thanks for the partnership and being a part of the sponsorship with us.
Well, yeah, it's obviously we launched things out here at St. Pete. Not exactly the race we wanted, but qualifying was pretty exciting. So hopefully we can put it all together in the month of May.
All right, well, fingers crossed on that. So look, you've seen some of the episodes, you know the rules. Different type of track. We're talking about the horse track and my love of horse racing. On the horse track, there are 8 furlongs. We don't keep track of the distance in terms of miles like you do on your track. We keep track of it in terms of furlongs. 8 furlongs in a mile, 8 questions. The only rule we have, Seb, is we need to get through this interview in less than 15 minutes. So with that, let me stop talking and we'll jump in. Let me ask you the first question, which is an easy one to break out of the gate with. Tell us a little bit about Sébastien.
Sébastien came to the US in 2003 with his future wife, no kids. And actually Claire was studying at USF in Tampa, and then we moved to St. Pete in 2005. Kind of never really looked back as our base camp in the US. Since then we've had 2 kids, Alex 11 now and Emma 14. She was born at Bayfront. And she's the American of the family, and just feeling very blessed to live here in the Bay.
Look, one of the things that I love about learning about success is it really can come from anywhere. Like many people, you follow your own path, and sometimes that path can be a little bit different. I know your path is a bit unique in terms of how you got started into racing. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure, yeah. So my dad wanted to race motorcycles, and he wanted to race motorcycles for a long time, and his dad was not on board. So when I turned 3, I got a motorcycle. Not that I really asked for it, but it was great, and I very much enjoyed that. And from that moment onward, really, anything which was motorized just became a passion. And that led to another motorbike, then an ATV, then we started go-kart. I was 10. And kart led to cars, and cars led to pretty decent amount of success. And that's how it all got going. So I've been in car racing since I was 16, and I'm 42 now. So it's been a good ride.
Well, I know 42 in your industry means that you're well experienced. So we'll shift gears and talk a little bit about that experience. We named Dynasty in part because we wanted to build a brand that stood for winning consistently over time. You are a 4-time IndyCar champion. Winning once is really hard in anything, to be the champion, but to stay winning and to have that mentality and the focus and to motivate the team to keep focus on winning. Can you talk a little bit about that? What was it like winning the first time? How did that winning team come together? And then how did the team stay motivated to win not 1, but ultimately 4 championships?
Yeah, it's an interesting story. Obviously, when I first came over to the US, we were just fresh off winning the Formula 3000 championship, right. Which is the one step down, or was the one step down from Formula 1. Now it's called F2. And I had that awesome opportunity to drive for Newman Haas Racing, so Paul Newman and Carl Haas, who had at the time the best team. They had just won with Cristiano de Mata, that went to Formula 1 at that time, to Toyota. It was instant success. We were on pole 5 times that year, won 3 races, had a bunch of DNFs with a lot of retirements for just really pure bad luck, just mechanicals and incidents. And so that was kind of the only drawback of the season, but instantly it was really competitive. Gelled really well with my race engineer Craig Hampson. It was a very well sorted out team, very consistent, just a bunch of super high quality people, dedicated, been in the team for a long time. So they just welcomed me, and that side of the team was the Christian Fittipaldi team side, and the other side was the Michael Andretti side. So the other side was really used to winning. On that side, it was more like, like we got something, and we started winning, and the whole thing, the whole dynamic shifted, and my side of the team started to enjoy a great deal of success, and we went on to win the next year in 2004 and 2005 and 2006 and 2007. And really the one, just main factor to me through the success of all this is just there were very, very few changes in the team. There were small adjustments. Some guys would leave, just personal reasons, life, whatever. But there would never be more than one or two people at a time. So the consistency, the credibility, the trust, everything, the dynamic inside the team was always very strong. With a core group that stayed mostly the same from my first arrival in the team to the time I left. And yeah, I mean, we were very much of a family of, just racing fanatics, really, and just had the same goal, which was winning, and we're all, keeping our heads down, just constantly just looking at ways to improve things. And Craig was just like me, a perfectionist, so it was never enough. And to some degree, the only thing I somewhat regret is that we almost, by doing this, didn't quite enjoy the moment as much as we maybe should have, but it also was probably and maybe the only way to just stay competitive and keep at the very top of level of our sport. But it definitely worked. Nobody came close and beat us.
Well, I want to come back here in a moment to what you had said about enjoying the ride, because it just spurred a question that I want to ask you about that. But let's stick on the topic of team and leadership. I've had the pleasure of spending some time with Larry Foyt, obviously, who owns the team and helps run the team, the number 14 car that you drive for now. I've spent time with your agent and other people around the sport, and one of the things that I hear from people is Sébastien is a great leader. So I want to ask you, what, in your view, Sébastien, what makes a great leader?
Well, I only know my own recipe, obviously, but for me, it's because it's sports, so it's high emotions. It's super high commitment too, because we're on the road a lot. It's being away from your family. So for the mechanics who don't enjoy the same kind of attention, not the same pay either. They're working twice as hard as we do. They're during weekends. They're just a simple thing like last weekend at Texas. They were out fixing the cars through no faults of anybody in the team, not me, not them. But they were out until midnight, 1 a.m. fixing the car. They were back at the track at 8 the next morning. So race is incredibly demanding and challenging. And so for me to first of all extract the best out of everybody, I'm very hard on myself. I don't take defeat very well, and I sure try and find remedies for it. But there's definitely that drive for me that just says you can only be demanding on people if you're twice as demanding on yourself. And I just make sure that everybody sees that. And so I do quite a bit myself. I always try and help in any way I can, the team. But it's also mostly just kind of making them feel respected, valued, and making them understand that being a smaller organization, sometimes you have to have everybody kind of coming on board with the one idea and just one direction, and everybody pushing forwards. And when you do that and create that one group, it's worked very well for me. Like I've had some very dedicated people willing to do a lot for me, for the organization I was driving for, and it's definitely paid dividends.
Awesome. So let me take a half step back and ask you a question more on a macro level. Any business over time has to evolve and innovate, and has to really think about the client. And I would imagine in your sport, in your industry, the client is obviously the fan, as well as the sponsors of the drivers, the cars, et cetera. What are some things, again, you have a lot of great experience and perspective now, what are some things that you think your industry could do to further evolve and innovate the sport and industry?
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's a ever fast evolving business sport, and the world right now is changing at a very quick pace with all the social media and the dynamic of what the technologies offer to us. So that fan experience, that interaction with people, especially in very challenging public times right now with COVID and this and that and the other, yeah, you definitely try and scratch your heads with the marketing teams and the sponsors and your partners to try and come up with new ideas to engage people, to find solutions to make them feel like they're a part of it. So they're, you know, definitely more willing to support you and respect you, because, you know, it's just that always that kind of, oh, I'm looking up to that guy. I like the way he presents himself. I like the way he handles the sport, and also trying to be accessible as best you can, which, right, you know, obviously are limitations to what you can do. But I've always tried to, you know, take the time to come out and sign autographs every time there is, you know, someone that's at the garage or something. And yeah, I think, you know, just be true to yourself. You know, just I think and see a lot of people sometimes try to overdo it, and they just, you kind of, I always look at it and I'm like, that doesn't look very genuine. I just try and stay true to myself and be as myself as possible, I guess.
Yeah. So let me come back to something you said earlier. I guess, pun intended, enjoying the ride. You know, as we move on in our career, sometimes we mature and our perspectives start to change. And in any business, there are significant ups and downs. Certainly within our business, the market itself is constantly going up and down. And in racing, you can have an amazing week one week and then a horrible week the next. Look, you've been four-time champion. You've won the 24 Hours of Le Mans, which I would imagine takes enormous focus. The 12 Hours of Sebring, you've won that race twice. How do you keep staying motivated and focused at 42 at this stage of your career? But then how do you take that half step back and say it's really about the journey, maybe not the destination? And has that changed over the course of your career for you?
Yeah, for sure, it's changed. I mean, your perspective as you get older and you win more things, you know, you become probably a bit more appreciative of the opportunities. And I've had plenty of opportunities. I've been blessed with a lot and tried to make the best of every situation, but it doesn't always happen. You know, there are a lot of variables in sports. So, you know, I used to take my whole team out to dinner when we'd win a race. That was like the usual celebration. And then Monday was head down and on to the next one. And, you know, back then it felt like that was just kind of like go, go, go. I mean, like I said, sometimes looking back at it, maybe, you know, we were trying to enjoy it as much as we could. Did we give it its true value? Maybe not. But, you know, you always have a bit of a different perspective when you look back at situations. But in general, I think it's really important to be able to enjoy the moment, but then also refocus right away and just kind of put that energy back forwards, because you have to, otherwise you lose that edge. And you know, it's quite different as well when you go from one series to another. My main program is IndyCar with AJ4 Racing, but I also get to do some IMSA races with sports cars on those long races, the 12 Hours of Sebring and then the 24 Hours of Daytona. So those are teamwork, like you have teammates and you have to find the best compromise to make it work. So there are a lot of different situations in racing, and you just have to adapt and make the best of them.
Sébastien, one of the questions I love to ask anyone who's been incredibly successful in anything that they do, it requires enormous commitment and all-in mentality. And sometimes that can be very difficult to find balance, whatever that means. And part of this question is, what does that mean to you? I've had the great privilege and opportunity to meet Claire, your beautiful wife. You have two remarkable children. that my kids have also enjoyed the opportunity to spend time with. How do you find balance when you're on the road, you're all in on the sport over the course of your career, and what does balance mean to you as you think about family and career?
It's a tough equation. I mean, obviously, you end up being on the road quite a bit. So, thankfully, Claire is very dedicated with the kids. She's put her career completely aside to be the partner that I needed to be able to do what I do. And we couldn't have built the family, obviously, without her total commitment, because when you're, racing 22 times a year, plus testing, plus this, plus that, I mean, you're gone pretty much half the time. And it's quite condensed in IndyCar, so you just go. For me, balance is just trying to be as good at that as you can when you're home, and sharing experiences, moments. We do have an RV that I drive to some of the races, and when we have back-to-back races, you just kind of try and find destinations and things to do in between, and have those moments, where it's just dad, and it's not always easy. I think you're trying to bring values to your kid of work ethics and stuff, but obviously when they're young, like all they want is just the dad to be there and spend some time with them. So I mean, obviously you don't feel like you win the award of the best dad ever when you're gone a lot, but you try and just do the best you can with what it is, and when you're there, the good thing is, other than just working out physically, and when I'm home, and I can give them obviously my attention, which is, I think, what most kids just can ask of their parents, really.
Yeah, when you're there, you really want to be present, and I find, for incredibly busy people, parents like ourselves, and I have two children as well, as you know, it's quality over quantity, right? And to make sure that you keep that focus. So thanks for that. All right, last question as we head towards the finish line here together. I ask all the guests on the show, what's their big Kentucky Derby? So, for those of us who love horse racing, all the teams come together, the trainers, the jockeys. We're thinking about that big Kentucky Derby, that Triple Crown Trail. Obviously, the analogy for you, I'm sure, would be the Indianapolis 500. But the question is, what is that big aspiration, that big goal that's still sitting out there on the horizon for Sébastien that really gets you motivated to think about, and you and the team to run towards? What does that look like for you?
I mean, on the broad view, I'd say it's just keep it a passion. That, for me, that's the most important. Just being able to get in those race cars and just have the time of my life every time I get in it. The day I lose that will be retirement for sure. As far as goals like results and things, obviously, like you mentioned it, the 500 is the crown jewel of IndyCar. You want to win that. Is it realistic? I don't know. Don't really ask the question. I just kind of put all my effort with the team to try and give us the best opportunity possible. I mean, there's obviously been some huge upsets in recent years of unlikely winners and things, and so all you do is just put everything out there and leave nothing on the table and see what happens. It would be quite an honor to be able to bring success back to AJ Foyt Racing. There is some incredibly tough competition out there, and we're not the bigger team. But I think we've proved this year that with very hard work, a good group of guys, a good cohesion and dynamic, you can still achieve quite a bit, and that's what we're working towards. Like, just trying to bring the AJ Foyt Racing name back to the front of IndyCar.
Yeah, that's one of the things I really love about your sport is there's just so much passion that's in the sport. Last year I had the opportunity here in St. Petersburg to do a quick lap around, very quick lap around the track with Mario Andretti. And we were talking, and he was just so excited and giggling and thrilled to get in the car. And he was telling me he recently turned 80. So he's 80 years old, so excited to get in the car. And I literally was laughing out loud as we pulled away. I mean, it was just a highlight moment for me to be able to get in the car and just for a brief moment experience what you experience every week. Look, Sébastien, I would say with you, you're a great example of nice guys do in fact finish first. We are super excited about our sponsorship and partnership with you, and thank you so much for being a part of Around the Track. And thank you to you as well for joining us for another edition of Around the Track.